It's where people gather around in a room, listen for a sound, hear our favorite tune. Come together with good friends, pretty women, cold beer, know right where to get it. Heard they got it here. Well, this is my kind of church, my kind of town, my kind of people. Y'all are easy to hang around. There ain't nothing I love better. I love it so much it hurts. These are my kind of people. This is my kind of church.
Howdy, everyone. My name is Greg Holle. You are listening to the Greg Holle Show. This is episode number 8. We'll call it 8. Hang with me. I think it might be 7, but nonetheless, man, we're getting ready to rock and roll here. We've had a lot of good guests. Last week, Mike Fires was awesome. It was awesome having him on here. You heard a lot of stuff kind of behind the scenes, stuff that's been going on with him, a little bit of the free agency side. And we got my man Mike Hamilton coming on today. I don't know. I feel like at some point I'm going to run out of guests, but you know, I keep finding quality. So as long as Mike doesn't leave me hanging, give me 2-word answers today, I think we'll be on to more of the same. The Greg Holle Show is brought to you by the following sponsors. First off, Hiley Buick GMC and Subaru, the #1 volume GMC dealer in North Texas. Big supporters in your community. Youth sports have been huge with us. With the Fort Worth Texans have been huge with us in the Greg Holle Show. $10,000 off all remaining 2020 Sierra pickup trucks while they remain. Don't go blowing out of here on this show, but get on down right in the heart of Fort Worth. Swing on down while inventory lasts. Get with them. Mention the Greg Holle Show. Let them do the rest. Let them hook you up. Let them take care of you. I've done nothing but drive a Hiley GMC truck. Neither should you. I worked on that one today. That one's a little different. That one's brand new. They've taken care of me more than I could ever thank them. If GMC, Buick, and Subaru aren't your thing, guess what? You got Hiley, you have Mazda, you have Hyundai, you have Volkswagen, Acura, and Audi. Give them a call. Go down, swing over, check them out. Hit up Brian, hit up Eric. Let them work their magic. Dr. Nikki Green, Fort Worth Cosmetic and Family Dentistry. Visit ngreendental.com, 817-653-8859 to set up a free consultation. Cosmetics are their specialty. I have my notes a little jacked up here. I could do it from memory. The notes sometimes mess me up. Invisalign, whitening, veneers, implants, cosmetics are the other thing. If you look, all sorts of magazines, all sorts of publications that go out, they always find themselves in the top of North Texas and or in top of Texas, period. Let's not limit them now. In cosmetic dentistry and their practice by itself. Give them a call. Dr. Flossie, Dr. McCulloch, Dr. Leedy, Dr. Green. They'll get you hooked up again, 817-653-8859. It does not cost a thing for them to get a consultation. Do not go anywhere else but Fort Worth Cosmetic and Family Dentistry. Again, mention the Greg Holle Show. Let Dr. Green and her team hook you up and do their thing. Huge supporters. I'm telling you, Hiley and Dr. Green been with us since day one. Forever grateful for their support. And again, you got to support your own. That's how we've done it from the start here. Touched on a couple things before we bring on Mike. Super Bowl getting ready to rock and roll this week. Tom Brady again. Old Uncle Tom here is getting rolling. Insane what he's done. Right? I know everyone's going back and forth trying to figure out the Belichick stuff and hey, who is it? Is it him? Or I think he's kind of putting that to rest, not knocking anything that was done with the Patriots. But when you look at a guy who is way beyond the expectancy within the league to just year after year, and then of all teams, he goes into Tampa, which has been, with the exception of the run that they had in the 90s there for a year or two, I believe, it's basically been a subpar or under 500 franchise. We can use that as the let you down easy way of putting it. But here they are back again, running into Mahomes. That's another thing that's insane. Just what he's been able to do. He runs out. He plays. If we're tying this into baseball, the guy's able to play quarterback at the highest level like he's a middle infielder. It's Really, really impressive. The supporting crew, supporting staff that he's had has been tremendous. But you look around, son of a big leaguer, grew up around stadiums, just knows how to handle himself, well spoken, goes to Texas Tech, does his thing, and probably exceeds expectations about as severely as you can. You go and you look at a guy like that, he rolls in there. Okay, he's undersized. Yeah, he can run. Okay, but he's gonna get banged up. He's gonna get hurt. None of those have happened yet. Knock on wood. You want to see guys like that continue to have crazy amounts of success. Who knows? I'm rolling with Brady. Okay, we're not going to sit here. This isn't a gambling show, or at least as of yet. But if I'm sitting here, if I'm watching it, I don't know how you bet against Brady, but you flip a coin. I wouldn't be surprised with either of those teams coming out on top. Last thing here before I go bring on Mike is a good buddy of mine, huge, for those that are involved in the DFW baseball area or involved in the business, have kids in it, anything. Don Myers, good buddy of mine. About as shocked as I've been with any text message that I got. I was over at my daughter's birthday party. We did it over at our training facility. Got a text from a friend. Is there any validity to it? Had no idea what he was talking about. Typed that in, and I'm crushed, man. Guy, a lot of integrity, a lot of a backbone, and that guy did what was right, not kind of the popular follow the herd type thing, which we preach about a lot. It's really, really easy to just follow along, and there's a reason why he was the best at what he did. Heart goes out to Jennifer's kids, and again, Don, we're gonna miss you, my man. Look forward to we meet again, but yeah, it's a tough pill to swallow, and everything's got to keep rolling here. We wish everyone the best with that, business wise and with his family, but getting rolling here. Another guy who's got some familiarity, obviously, in crossing those paths, as he is the new director. If I'm messing this up, I'll let him correct me, of the Canes, Evo Shield Canes, or the North Texas Canes. He is the director, the god, the higher power of the North Texas Canes. Graduate of Arlington Lamar High School, out of from there, Western Oklahoma State University in Altus, Oklahoma. Drafted out of high school, decided not to sign. Ended up signing out as a free agent with the Texas Rangers in 1987. 5 years as a professional player in both the Rangers and Atlanta Braves organization. From then, 10 years in the MLB Scouting Bureau, 14 years in scouting and coaching with the Colorado Rockies. And then as of February of 2015, he took the leap. He took the faithful jump on into the sports facility and baseball world, opening up Collin County Baseball Academy February of 2015. Last little bit here. I did it the other day. Got to keep, blowing their head up before you bring them on. It's been huge, right? I had the opportunity to meet Mike prior to getting involved on the youth baseball side when I was still going. Jeff Fry was my agent, one of the guests we had on an earlier show. Mike and Jeff both were able to play together as teammates and develop a relationship that way. One of the, a couple of the times in Arizona, we were able to go and meet up. Mike was still scouting with the Colorado Rockies at the time. Nonetheless, here we go. He's a Texas guy. I'm living in Fort Worth myself now. And, the one thing I can say is it's been huge, him getting rolling there, the background in the sport, getting started, and what I'm currently doing a couple of years early. It's been huge to have him as a sounding board, huge getting, any sort of information, bouncing back and forth, hitting stuff. And, for some reason, he's asking me my opinion on some stuff all of a sudden. But nonetheless, before we go any further here, I want to get with, bring on good buddy Mike Hamilton. Now we're talking. Hold on a second. I don't know if your audio's cut out here. Can you hear me all right?
How about now?
There we go. I got you. We are ready to rock and roll, man. But no, I first want to appreciate you coming on, and then second too, I know you hit me up earlier when I wanted you to go and check and make sure you got on the site okay. I said it to you behind the scenes, but I'm telling you, dude, the working out is definitely paying off, man. You're looking yacked up, and for the next 40 minutes or whatever we got here, keep it together, and you can slug all the creatine, protein, and God knows what else upon the end of the show.
Well, first of all, I'll Venmo you the $100 for that introduction. And second of all, I love being on the show. I've been a viewer and listen to it since you guys started, and it's a pleasure being on.
Well, here for the net, I'm telling you, we got probably 40 minutes of hitting this stuff pretty hard here. You can Venmo me at any point, but besides that, the big thing here is let's not just run this bad boy into the ground in the next 40 minutes. We'll see if we can make it another week. But hey, getting going to it here. All righty, just hitting the ground running. It's actually been pretty cool. I look at Fry. I look at Fires last week. I could go on and on of guys we've had. Mark Dewey I had on earlier. I could use numerous examples, and it's just kind of been cool because the background and the stuff has been the success that guys have had without it being the massive school high draft pick thing, and that's really I'm not going to say the core of what we're going to talk about here, but definitely a piece of it. Give me a little bit. I know your dad, you the background with your dad. Cover a little bit of the background of how it came to be, where you were, what ended up happening, and how you ended up landing yourself, in your current spot.
I'll give you the abridged version. I was really fortunate. I love baseball. Played sports as a youth. My brother always, promoted it to playing. I actually got cut from my very first Little League team. And I'll never forget, my brother was 5-6 years older. He picked me up on his motorcycle and said, let's go to the store. We're going to buy some baseballs. You'll never get cut again. And so from that point on, I just learned to love to play the game. I think it was my freshman year in high school, I had an opportunity to be a substitute bat boy for the Texas Rangers. I lived in Arlington, grew up there. And I did that and fell in love with it. Begged Joe Macco, who was the equipment manager at the time, for an opportunity to do it the following year. And he and a couple of my really good friends in high school, he gave us the job. So that built my true love. And at that point, I decided I was going to be a professional baseball player. And that was it. I probably put way too many of my eggs in that basket. But luckily it worked out for me. Because I should have spent more time in the classroom and in the books than I did. I had the opportunity to be the bat boy, hang around. The guys back then allowed us to do things that probably they shouldn't have, both on and off the field. We got to make a road trip. We went to Cleveland, New York, and Milwaukee. I think I was 16 years old at the time, and absolutely no supervision. Just me and my good friend from high school. So, that built my love for the game, like I said, and said, I'm going to make this a profession. So, fast forward, I got an opportunity to play college baseball. Sandy Johnson gave me an opportunity to play professional baseball, he and Doug Gassaway. And I made the most out of my ability. I was a fringe player at best, but I was smart enough to be smart enough. And people kept me around because of that. I played with some wonderful players, tremendous players. Hall of Famers, some guys that were really, really accomplished. And I was smart enough to listen and watch to some people that were around the game. I was still playing at the time with the Atlanta Braves. I was planning on going back to spring training. And Sandy Johnson, who at the time was, I believe, was assistant general manager for the Rangers, he called me up and said, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Well, I'm working out, getting ready to go to spring training." He said, "Well, why don't you come have lunch with me one day?" So about a week later, I went and had lunch with him, and Sandy, he said, "So what are you really going to do?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to spring training with the Braves." And he said, "Man, Mike," he goes, "you could catch and throw, and you hurt your arm, and now you can't throw." He goes, "So the only thing you can do is catch. You probably need to think about something else." So long story short, he got me an opportunity to go to scout school. I didn't know it was a scout school. I thought it was an interview, and I did it after talking with my dad. I said, he gave me the advice. He says, "What do you got to lose? Fly down to Florida." I show up to Florida thinking that I was going to be there for a one-day interview. It turned out to be 2 weeks. I had hardly any clothes, nothing prepared for this deal. But I went into the scout school thinking I knew a lot about baseball, and it really it was a slap in the face, or a wake up call, so to speak, that I didn't know near as much as I thought I did. So I was fortunate enough to be around some tremendous scouts there. Jim Walton, Rusty Gerhardt, a few around here. Went through the scout school that was put on by Major League Baseball. It's an invitation only thing. Unfortunately, they don't have it anymore. Was offered a job and worked 10 years with Major League Baseball Scouting Bureau, which then was a springboard to the working with the Rockies. At the time, it was the very first year of the Olympics that we had professional players, and we had to qualify a team in the Pan American Games. And so Major League Baseball, Bob Watson and Pat Gillett put together a staff, and Buddy Bell was the manager, and I was fortunate enough to be part of that staff. Buddy got the job in Colorado right after that, and in 2000, I moved with my wife and 1-month-old daughter. We moved to Denver, and I took a job with the Rockies.
Man, it seems like it just listening to you, just the real little bit. If I'm like bullet point or cliff note, and a little bit of what you just said is the element that professional baseball, as far if we're looking at just from a minor league side, and the going to Major League Baseball scouting school seems to be one and the same, as far as you have no idea what the hell is going on basically until you show up, and you never find out about it last minute. And the next, at least the next thing the next thing you show up, you think you're there for a day or two, you're there for a couple weeks. That we ran through it, and I'm sure it was the same with you. I remember looking back, you were going, and I got my wife out in Scottsdale. We ended up, before we had the baby, and her stuff work wise was flexible enough that she was able to come out, and we're sitting there, and you're trying to figure out, you're kind of like everyone, right? You play GM the last, or every day that you're there, but the last however long, I'm going here. Well, based on how I'm throwing, we move this guy here, and you play every scenario that there is. Little do you know, you're about to go somewhere for X amount of months, barring any sort of promotions, demotions, getting released and all that. You find out where you're going about what I feel like equates to, about an hour and a half before you leave, and you're supposed to find housing. You're supposed to get your family out there. You're supposed to get your car out there. And it is crazy though. Cause going off of what you said, going back to the actual, the substance of it, everything you did, what's it end up doing? Baseball puts you in a spot to meet Sandy. Sandy ends up with a spot looking out for you, get your foot in the door with the bureau, and the next thing you know, you're in the scouting, and before you know it, I don't know what it ended up being in total, but you're a minimum of 25 years in professional baseball, all off of what equates to multiple that you develop throughout. But it comes down to one relationship formed, one thing going to lunch, one guy taking a liking to you, as far as it came with professional baseball, and here you are. You're able to continue using it the same way, I try to, relationships you develop, and so on and so forth.
No, you couldn't be more right. I mean, first of all, I'm tremendously fortunate to be able to do this as long as I have. It's literally the only real job I've ever had. I was a lifeguard at Wet and Wild 1 year, part-time. And besides that, that's the only job I've ever had in my life, is in baseball. And most of that is, like you said, it's relationships. It wasn't my immense talent or knowledge or skill. It was just relationships that I had built. And I guess I was smart enough to build them with guys that had the ability to give me a job every now and then.
Hey, get around some guys that have some pull, man. But yeah, hey, as we get going here, I know you and I, speak more than most, and then you're getting the opportunity to have you on here to just, basically open up, or, peel back the curtain on what it is that gets talked about on a day-to-day basis. And now, sure, it pertains to kids, but as a whole, the guys that you're able to be around, and just period, when you look at it, the way it is on a youth organization, a college program, a professional, on the professional level, when you look into the player development side, the process, what do you, player development and the words development and process, the two most overused words in all of baseball. What are the pieces of it where you're at now versus where you were then? I'm going to hit you with both, that you enjoy the most and you enjoy the least. I guess enjoy the least wouldn't be the word, but what you
Yeah.
what you see the most, as a positive, and what drives you the most nuts.
The most positive is still it's a game. No matter if you're making millions of dollars and there's careers on the line, or if it's 9 new kids running around your facility and you're seeing the smile on their face when they're getting the opportunity to be there. It's a game. And, we both, I'm sure everyone watching us now, we love the game. So that's the great part about it. Even more in depth, I think it's unbelievable the facilities and the coaching and instruction that's available now to players. It wasn't always there. It's turned into a business. There's no doubt about that, and that's probably the negative. That's probably the thing I dislike is that it is a business. There are financial aspects to it. And, sometimes you have to make decisions that because of that. And, with that, we're still dealing with kids. We're still dealing with kids that want to play baseball. And I think we got to remember that, it is a business, but if we offer a legitimate service and we do what we say we're going to do, then it makes it a lot easier to live with.
Yeah, because when I go and I look at that, right, a point you brought up is spot on, and I battle, day in and day out. You do the same thing. You have the investment side of your. I say this to parents I'm talking to them. I think about it myself, and it just it is spot on, and it's true. Your guys, the two biggest things you have rolling is, the financial investment. Let's address the old elephant in the room here. Us with on the overhead side, the coaching, just everything on the line, exposure wise, and then also you look at the parents and the players that want to come, that want to join a program, that want to find a way for the kids to progress. But then the other half of the equation is the time investment. It is anything out there, whether it's a product, a service, you name it. There's a reason why high-end steakhouses exist. There's a reason why high-end cars exist. There's and then on the other end of the spectrum, there's a reason why, there's the IHOPs and all the other stuff that they are what they are, and the value in something is basically what's perceived or what the consumer feels it's worth. And that is on our end. I know this is another one that we beat into the ground. We beat in the ground going back and forth here is just following through on what you're trying to put out. You get an opportunity that, like, I got a 1-year-old, so I can't go and I can't use the example. Oh, I'm a parent. I completely follow along with what's going on, because the fact of the matter is she's 1, right? I hear her outside, out in the kitchen right now, making all sorts of noise and messing around with my wife as she feeds her. Outside of that, I don't know what it's like to be a parent of a kid where I'm putting trust in someone else, because I haven't gone through it. But when you do that, and I know darn well, looking at parents that put trust in us, and then the satisfaction they have when we go through and follow through with what's going on, and take a liking, take some, invest in their kid, reinvest in the program, reinvest in what we can put out there to them. Now they see that, now they see the buy-in on each side. And it's not me sitting here, on a podcast with a bunch of people watching it, saying this stuff to try to make it look like I'm talking to you, but I'm talking to them directly. It's the product you're putting out. Stand by what you're able to say, surround them with quality guys, and shoot them straight. Because the fact of the matter is, it's a matter of time in this game before you're humbled. And it happens to a lot sooner. And then some that the most successful, guess what? It ends. And it's not because, they don't, age out, and usually age out because your performance goes down, and, you put yourself in that spot. But that, what you said is enormous. It's so enjoyable watching these guys, progress. And then I think another, a little side note that I had of the development side that wears me out is this, and I'll turn it back to you, is the immediacy, the right now, it's got to happen this second of people. It's our society, but they want everything now. They don't realize how much darn time it takes.
No, it's, I do have kids. I have a son in college that plays baseball. My daughter plays college soccer. So I've gone through it, and I know the anxiety of a parent that you want to make sure you're doing everything possible for your kid to succeed. It could be piano, it could be soccer, baseball, whatever. That anxiety never goes away as long as you have kids. At least it hasn't gone away for me. So I do know that anxiety, and I do believe that it's our job to try to help parents and guide them. And this isn't just baseball instruction. This isn't your swing or your pitching mechanics. It's not just that. It's being a sounding board, and it's being a resource. And one of the reasons why that I think guys like yourself and there's others out there that run organizations are so valuable is because you do have a tremendous insight to this. If you pay your accountant to do your taxes, you expect him or her to be comparable and to do a good job and to know the rules. And I look at us the same way. We're not accountants, of course, we're not doctors, but when someone pays us to do the service, it's on us to steer them in the right direction and give them the right advice. And if we don't, then shame on us.
Man, and I had this a couple pages in, and the fact of the matter is this is something where probably the most valuable of any. I want to get to the section or piece of just projectability and scouting guys in general, because I made bullet points. A team's records are relevant. When you start looking at guys' body actions, pedigree, as tweaks are made, what can they become? What is the hardest for you to, the hardest thing for you to project in a player? How important is makeup and toughness when it comes to trying to evaluate a player? Because that is something bat speed can't tell you. Their size can't tell you if you're soft. But of what I mentioned, you looking at a player, what made you successful and able to stay around and have the trust of Major League organization for as long as you did?
Evaluation is in my opinion, it's what makes or breaks organizations. The ability to evaluate players, is in player development. It's at your big league level. Of course, it's in your scouting and in your draft. If you can't evaluate, then you're basically a reporter, and that's kind of where we're going. Unfortunately, there's a lot of guys out there that don't have jobs anymore that have unbelievable evaluation skills. But the ability to see a player at 16, 17, 18 years old and project him as an adult and say he's going to hit in the big leagues or he's going to get people out, he's going to be a closer. That's a skill. I mean, that's a skill that is built up over years and years of trial and error and watching lots and lots of baseball. The playing background, it gives you a foothold into that, and it gives you a giant head start. But I've known tons of good scouts that weren't ex-players. But I do believe that having that foothold, having that head start, gives you a definite advantage.
What do you think is more difficult? Getting after trying to go after and find a young pitcher who's going to project, or a hitter?
Hitter.
Absolutely. But just no doubt based on what they're facing, what they're.
Yeah, for me, I mean, hitting is so much about adjustments. And you talked about, pitchers are mentally tough. They're great. We joke about it all the time, but most pitchers are really good athletes. Most pitchers were the shortstop or the center fielder in amateur baseball. Just at some point in time, they became a pitcher only. But hitting is just it's so hard to project. I mean, you see lots of guys that hit at a lower level, but when it comes time to adjust or handle velocity or whatever it might be, it's a failure. It's a failing proposition anyway. But when you're looking at young players, that was always the hardest one for me. The rest of the tools are pretty cut and dry. You can look at, measurables have become real important and things like that. But the ability to put the bat on the ball is still the hardest thing to do in sports.
When you were sitting down, when you were having meetings, I'm assuming it hasn't changed that much, but when you're getting close, draft's getting there. If you have some local guys, you have some guys that you've seen, and you're sitting down with them, going through. Let's use high school for example. Does the conversation, or are you instructed, by the organization? Obviously, your job is to go and sign and bring in talent and bring in guys that they feel like could help the organization. But the question here is, when you sit down with them and you're going from high school baseball, where you're playing, what is it, 30 games, 40 games, maybe if you're on a good team in Texas, at least. I know in New York we played like 5 games and it seemed like it snowed the rest of the time. When you're sitting down with them, the jump, I know for me, went from the College World Series to the Arizona League there, but you're playing every day, you're throwing every day. I thought my damn arm was going to fall off. So just that element of expectations, you're out on the field. It's not, okay, you're with guys at your age. You're competing now. It is you versus the big leagues, but you got to be careful too, because I'm sure there's a fine line of the picture you want to paint. You don't want to go scare these guys off either. That, holy hell, I'm up against, Arenado or Todd Helton or Larry Walker at the time.
Yeah, I've got a funny story. I'll try to make it brief. When I signed, Marty Scott was our player development director. And like I said earlier, I grew up in the Ranger organization, so I knew Marty. Marty knew me. We weren't, real tight or anything, but we knew each other. Well, he flew down to Florida, Fort Myers, Florida, with me. And on the flight, I'll never forget this. We're eating back when they used to actually serve food on the airplanes. And Marty said, "Hey, look, I just want to give you a heads up." He said, "I know what type of player you are, and I know you're going to try to make an impression, but I'm telling you, the heat will zap you." And I'm thinking to myself, what the heck, Marty? I'm from Texas. I've been catching doubleheaders on the weekend my whole life. The heat's not going to bother me. So fast forward, the plane lands. We get off the plane. Trainer picks us up, and we're standing out waiting for him to get the van. And I'm wearing boots, a pair of Wranglers, and a polo. And 5 minutes while we're waiting, I can feel the water dripping into my boots from my legs. The humidity was something I'd never felt. So we drive an hour to Port Charlotte. We pull up, we get in the clubhouse. There's my locker. It's got my name on it. I've realized my dream. I'm a professional baseball player. I throw on shorts and a t-shirt. They had already been there for 2 or 3 days, most of the team, the guys that signed right away. I run out on the field, and Stan Huff's our manager. I introduced myself to him. He said, "Go out and shag, and we'll get you to hit in the group." So I'm running around the outfield power shagging, man. I'm a professional baseball player in Port Charlotte, Florida, and I'm trying to run everything down and, throwing it in as hard as I can. Meanwhile, I'm looking around, and balls are literally rolling to a stop. Guys will walk over, saunter over there, pick it up, and, underhand it back in. I'm thinking, what are these guys doing? So we get to the clubhouse. We get to the clubhouse, and a guy I played summer ball against, Glenn Bruckner, came up to me, and we were talking. And I asked him, I said, "Bruck, man, is everyone here a number 1 pick but me?" He goes, "What do you mean?" I go, "I'm looking around, and these guys are just letting the ball roll by them. They're not even throwing it in." And he goes, "Give it a couple days." Fast forward to the next morning at 7:30, laying on that sod, the dew from the sod, I'm soaked, the sweat's already hitting me. I'm tired, my body's sore, and I'm thinking, what the hell am I doing? And that was a guy that would have done anything. I would have paid them to let me play. So I don't think you can ever prepare anybody for the rigors and the emotion and the anxiety and the good times that they're getting ready to have when they become a professional player.
Because I think that's a huge piece of it. And going from there, is there a time, or obviously you touched on it earlier when you when you had the conversation with Sandy, but is there any thought in your mind of a timeline, whether it's a high school guy, a college guy, on, hey, or do you think it's just a personal level of, you got to self-evaluate where you're at and what I'm getting to is, am I spinning my wheels? Do I just see constantly just guys just, I'm sitting here passing me up that play a similar position? When it gets to the point of, dude, you're going to be 50 years old in the minor leagues. You haven't made a dime. You got nothing else to fall back on. You have no other plan. You have no other, skills, so to speak, outside of baseball. Was there any sort of time frame thing for you, or I guarantee there was conversations along the way with guys, because I know I had several where guys are, hey man, I don't know how much longer I can do this stuff. I don't know what the hell is going on here. I feel like I'm producing, but I'm not moving. Do you feel, or have you had, conversations like that with guys you've drafted, or guys sitting in the clubhouse when you're in the big leagues, the Rockies?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I actually had a conversation with a player about that yesterday that's still playing. And basically the gist of the conversation, even for a guy, this guy has a 16-year career going on right now. And there's about a 5-year sweet spot for those guys. There's about 5 years in the middle of that career where they're just good. Everything, they're signed, they've got a contract, they're healthy, and they're playing well. But when you first break in, you question, am I, is this for me? Am I good enough? And then when you make it, you're almost like, am I fooling anybody? Is this real? And then you've got that sweet spot, and then you start to say, am I losing skill? Am I getting too old for the game? So for the lucky ones, and I wasn't one of those, I think you got that 5 years, 6-year sweet spot where you're pretty happy. For the rest of us, man, this, you're questioning every day. Like you said, you're playing GM every day. Spring training, you got that roster out. I couldn't imagine it now with the internet and all the things that are going on. We used to literally write it down on a piece of paper. Okay, how many catchers are still in camp? How many spots are there going to be for me? Am I going to make a club? So and then at some point in time, somebody's going to tell you can't play, and that was me. I didn't have a lot of other. No one was beating my door down, going to give me a CEO job anywhere. So I was going to play as long as I could, or until I had something else that I thought would be something I could succeed at.
How much tougher do you think it makes everyone's job now with the downsizing of both the draft and the minor league systems? You think it ends up being, you're going to shrink the amount of opportunity, or will it be something that just kind of adjusts or adapts, and now independent ball carries more clout as if it's the lower end of the minor leagues, or it just becomes those guys that before may have had to go and could prove themselves and weren't necessarily someone who's going to get chance after chance after chance, like some high round picks, or guys that signed as a free agent, say a Cuban guy, for example, or Dominican, Venezuelan guy, signed free agent, made a bunch of money. Do you think now that it's been shrunk and you got rid of some rookie ball teams, you got rid of a bunch of rounds of the draft, how you think it's going to be a way quicker hook, or it's something where it's just so much more direct, it's going to be the old crapper get off the pot type thing?
I think it's going to be fluid. It's going to this will grow and change as everyone gets used to it. The people that came up with these ideas aren't baseball people. The fact is I contribute to a big reason why the Atlanta Braves had so much success was during that time they always had more minor league teams, so opportunity was there for players to get more at bats, more innings pitched. And when you do that at the professional level, you make less mistakes evaluating and promoting the right players. How it works now is we're using numbers and we can get into the analytics and things like that. But the bottom line is that back when I was even doing it, we were literally releasing the same guy that we were getting ready to draft. It was the same guy, the same profile, everything was the same, except for the guy we were releasing hadn't had any success in a very short window. So we couldn't wait to get rid of him. So everyone forgot about our mistake. And then we would go draft the shiny new nickel, and everyone would think, oh, this guy's going to be great. And it's the same guy. The difference now is we have even less opportunity for these guys to prove us right or prove us wrong, because I think what's going to happen is you're going to run guys out there, and the ones that put up numbers or analytics that the different clubs are coveting, they will stick around, and the other ones will go home. So it's going to be interesting to see. I don't think opportunity is going to go away. I just think that in the long run, they're just going to make more mistakes.
You mentioned analytics. With the access to information that players have nowadays, right? It's something that can be there's so much information. There's so much background and knowledge of guys, whether it starts in the minor leagues, that comes up, gets passed through. Granted, some of these big league guys may not have seen an arm, and vice versa. The pitchers may not have faced certain hitters, but do you think there's a fine line between benefiting from the analytics, benefiting from video? I know you said you were doing stuff on the video side versus it becoming like full paralysis or something where you just can't, guys can't function without it, or else they want no part of it.
No, definitely. Analytics, video, technology, all those things are tools. The game hasn't changed. The people in the game have changed. What we covet has changed. But the game itself is still the same game. It's still 90 feet to first base. It's still, it's still the same game. But what I look at it is these are all tools in a toolbox. You can use them correctly and you can build a beautiful home, or you can use them incorrectly and you can make a lot of mistakes if you rely on one tool and that only tool. The organizations that are out there that are still succeeding and still doing well, in my opinion, are the ones that have a nice balance of both analytics, technology, and people with baseball background, people that understand the human side of the game.
Because when you were in there, right? We'll just address the obvious. We've talked a little bit about it in the past, but a guy like Todd Helton, right? For what it's worth, my opinion, that's basically what it's worth, my opinion. I don't know. Watching that guy year after year after year after year after year, that was when basically watching professional baseball was, something I did frequently and just wasn't just submerged in it as a player. And now, run an organization. You take a guy like that, who I feel is a Hall of Famer, and bar none. Talk about like just the work ethic of a guy like that. You have the best of the best talent wise, but then you take that routine oriented BP 100 and God knows how many times a year. I'm sure the video component of it, taking care of their body versus what we already talked about with everyone wanting it right now.
Yeah, that's the thing that the average fan doesn't see or understand. A lot of fans, I remember having conversations with people. They thought I went to work must be like 6:30. You show up 30 minutes before the game. They don't realize that players, they're in the clubhouse at noon, 1 o'clock. They're constantly working. They're constantly looking for an edge. And the thing I think surprises even more people is the best players are the ones that work the hardest. I was very, very fortunate to be around some legitimate Hall of Famers or Hall of Famers to be. And all of those guys worked extremely hard. There were some that didn't want people to realize how hard they worked. That was kind of their deal. Griffey was that way. He was the kid and the natural, and he didn't want people to know how hard he worked, but he worked as hard as anybody. Larry Walker was the same way. Larry Walker didn't make a big deal about, when he would go and do extra swings and watch video, he did it in privacy. Where you mentioned Todd Helton, he didn't care who knew. He only cared. Todd was only focused on succeeding. That's all he cared about. That was the only thing that mattered to him. And so it didn't matter what he had to do to get to the point that, of success. He did it. So you're 100% right. It's, once you get to that level, it's not just about, I tell our kids this all the time. If you're doing what all your teammates and opponents are doing, your competition, then you're hoping you won the genetic lottery. And if you did win the genetic lottery, you're still needing to be the hardest worker on the team if you want to be the most successful player on the field.
Because the higher you get, the more of those so-called lottery winners you're going to have in a clubhouse.
Yeah, it's a pyramid, man. The talent level goes this way. It doesn't go the opposite way. It gets harder every step you move up.
If you were to go and try to pinpoint just in order of importance, I guess, let's see. Let me rephrase that. The talent component and just the traits that you've seen out of those guys that are the best. I'll mention some, and you can add your pieces to it. Is there, obviously, is there a natural element of athleticism, natural talent? Sure. Crazy hand-eye coordination. If you're talking about hitters and defenders, absolutely. The attention to detail. But the big thing, and we touched on it again just a minute ago, or what you just got done talking about. BP every day, early BP. Hell, you get some of these guys that get caught up that are in the depending American League, National League, American League with a DH to have a little more freedom. But guys are in there getting at bats, between at bats in a cage, and it's just this never-ending amount of work watching previous at bats during games. But if you were to go through and try to pinpoint maybe two that you've seen of the best guys you've been around, traits, obviously outside of natural ability, you can't control that.
Like I was very fortunate to be around, but I think, a guy that both near and dear to our heart that got the most out of his ability was Jeff Fry. Jeff Fry played a lot of baseball, and he'll probably slap me the next time I see him. He wasn't the most talented player. Nowadays, if you put him on the measurable scale and you did all those things, Jeff might have not gotten drafted, might have not ever got an opportunity to play. But you want to talk about a mentally tough guy, a guy that he was focused on what he wanted to accomplish and did what he needed to do to accomplish that, no matter how many obstacles he had. So I think that's the common denominator with all of them. They're all mentally tough, even when they fail, and even when they have they lose confidence. They still have that ability to, it sounds corny, but pick themselves up, dust themselves off, and go out and compete again. It's easy. I'll be honest, Todd Helton, great athlete. He was a college quarterback and a really good college pitcher, by the way. But just pure athleticism, he wouldn't blow you away. But mentally, this guy used to literally punish himself when he had a bad game. He would not allow himself to do certain things after a bad game. So, that's a mentally tough guy. That was what he was about, was competing and succeeding. So hopefully that answered your question.
No, man, it was gold. I guess we'll have a little fun with this stuff. I did it last week and granted, I was talking to Fires, but don't need names. The story or what ended up happening with your absolute biggest screw up or miss that you thought was a surefire slam dunk type guy throughout your scouting career. Again, don't need names.
To write a book. My first job in scouting, I saw the best 100 to 150 players in the draft. So everyone I saw was good. It was just a matter of, the things you pointed out earlier, makeup. One of the things I say now, and I learned then, when I went in to see these guys, they had already had, area scouts and cross-checkers see them. So they were pretty confident in their abilities. I love to watch those guys fail. I love to see them to strike out or get knocked out of an inning or have a bad call against them, because I wanted to see how they handled that failure, because at that point, these guys hadn't been humbled. And they're going to be humbled. You said it at the very beginning of this broadcast. You play this game long enough, you're going to be humbled by this game. And so that was one of the things I used to like to see. As far as my biggest miss, it was Derek Jeter. I saw Derek Jeter in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and there's videos out there. I actually took the video. If you go on YouTube and look for his high school video, I took that video. I just didn't think he was a number one pick. I thought he was a good player. I thought, you should go around second or third round, but I kind of missed on him a little bit. But there's a long line of players that you miss on.
Oh, well, and sure. Like you're talking too, if you're thinking about the other question I hit you with, what's the most difficult thing? Not only are you talking about a hitter, but a high school hitter. We're gonna go through and we're gonna try to line something up, and we go a surefire first ballot Hall of Fame guy like that. Gets tremendously difficult as we wind some of this down, going back to the youth side with a little bit of just what we're in the mix of daily. You feel the projection side on youth is similar or totally different? And I'll mention a couple things. Is due to the age of a kid, a high school kid versus a kid who's, 11 or 12, you're dealing with the coordination element, the physical side, the failure, the failure of some of these kids haven't, just because they're physically bigger, haven't had an opportunity to fail, which brings out that key part of projecting a kid and is their makeup. How difficult do you feel that is?
Impossible. I say this all the time. If someone tells you as a parent that your kid has what it takes when he's 10 or 12, or that, run from that person, because they're trying to get into your wallet or they're trying to do something else. But I promise you can't project 10-year-old baseball players or 12-year-old baseball players. Heck, it's hard enough for guys that do this for a living to project 18, 19, 20-year-old baseball players. For me, the development side of youth sport, or youth baseball especially, is, I use this term all the time. We create an atmosphere that allows for failure, but demands success. We want to teach them the right way. We want them to be successful. But because of our history in this game, we know that failure is going to happen on a daily basis. And shame on us if we don't make them understand that, number one, it's going to happen. And number two, it's not a tattoo. This isn't a permanent thing. Failure is not permanent. Failure is just part of the learning experience. And so the youth side of the game is being hurt by all the knowledge and all the things that are out there where we want to put a brand on these kids. He's a majors player. He's this, or, he's a can't miss. All that is honestly just, it's false. He might be a major player when he's 10, and he might be out of the game by the time he's 12. It doesn't really matter if we don't do our job, if mom and dad don't do their job, and we don't, allow this kid to have fun and to develop. And part of development is failure.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head with the last thing you said. Part of development's failure, because what you're doing, and I laugh about it because you and I have both lived it and continue to, and we have all the stuff, as far as just conversations you have, different things you hear, better preparing you to respond, better preparing you to give answers to people and what you feel will help their kid best. But if you think you're doing something where the best of the best, not to sound cliche, the best of the best, you're going to fail, a minimum 70% of the time. The absolute best. And what do we do? What do players keep doing? You keep going back to, I need more. No one goes anywhere in their life. No one does anything on a day-to-day basis where they just keep going, let's fail. Oh man, God, this is what a blast that is, right? You go out somewhere, let's see how much money say you're in the you're into stocks, or you're investing. Let's go out and just, nothing I like better. Let's go out and just lose a crap ton of money daily. We'll get a rush off of it and keep wanting to go back and do more. But baseball is basically what it provides, but it's the competitive side. It's everything else, all the other elements that make it, in my opinion, probably the most exciting, the most fun game that there is. And it's everything else that's around it, including, the opportunity that it's presented myself, it's presented you, it's presented a ton of people just through who you meet, whether it's baseball related or not. An enormous amount of value here is, again, what it can do for you, lining up relationships made, springboarding you into a network, or giving you an opportunity to go and, get your foot in the door, play, maybe whatever. If it ends up being an opportunity on a baseball team where you meet people that could potentially end up being employers, it's enormous. But it goes back to what we were just mentioning, here just seconds ago, trying to go through and say, hey, you're 11-year-old, man, oh man, he's hitting 800. He's in. Just keep doing what you're doing. Well, obviously, keep doing what you're doing. The only problem is it doesn't stay going that way. And when you try to have conversations like that, when you look at it, they'll look back at you like you're lying to them, and it's off to the next one. Who's going to tell me what I want to hear? And then if they don't, we'll go on to the next one, Before they know it, they're knocking back at your door because, hey, I feel like the information that was being put out, what was being told to me, man, it's pretty darn accurate. And I think that's the That's the trust people put in you. That's that's the trust people put in organizations, or hope that they can put into it as they're going, investing time and the time investment, the money investment for their kid to keep going. But it's the truth. It's the part of development is, yes, getting the truth, yes, reacting to failure, yes, doing all this, but it's incredibly, incredibly difficult. And I think you did, man. I think you basically put a bow around just how difficult that is. And if someone's sitting here painting this picture that your son's the second coming of Christ, you're probably surrounding yourself with the wrong people. At least,
yeah, it's got to be tough being a parent now. Even tougher than for me when my daughter was playing soccer. I look at that a lot because I didn't know anything about soccer. Through my son, I felt like I had a little bit better grasp on baseball. But I remember the anxiety and listening to people and wanting coaches' approval and having people tell me, "Oh, she's going to be a good player," because that's what I felt like should happen if she was a good player. As I've gone through the youth side of this, I've seen there is an underbelly, and not everyone is out there is a bad person. There's a fair share of those people. But there's a lot of people that are just, quite frankly, not qualified to be charging money for what they're doing. It could be lessons, or it could be instruction, it could be coaches, it could be organizations. So as a parent, you've got to wade through all this. There's no book. No one's written the manual yet on how to look past all this and how to get through it. You just got to kind of do it from trial and error. But I think it goes back to, as a parent, what we have to understand is that why did we start off playing this sport in the first place? Was it so we could get a D1 college scholarship at 15 or sign a professional contract at 18? I think for most parents, that's not why they play T-ball. They put their kid in a T-ball team. It was so they could go out and learn some life lessons and have some fun and build some confidence. And if we continue to do that and we give them good instruction, and they only play high school baseball. And I say only, there's a lot of kids that would love to say they play high school baseball, especially in this area. There's a lot of really good high school programs. But if that's their end of their baseball career, that's not necessarily a negative. That was time when money well spent. If they had a good time, they learned life lessons and they built confidence, that's going to carry them for the rest of their lives. So I think that's the thing that we got to kind of go back and realize is, why did we get into this in the first place? And for most people, it wasn't, because I wanted to be a 20-game winner or sign a $1 million contract. It was because I love the game.
Last question here. With what you mentioned, where does someone go without, right? I know you said you got to kind of navigate it. Who do you lean on? Where can someone go? And I'm not talking about social media. It's probably the furthest thing from it. Where can they go to better arm themselves to keep from that learning curve being something that costs their kid a season or a year or a couple of years in regards of time, that just, it ends up being, kind of smoke and mirrors or something that it wasn't what it was, cracked out to be.
For the average parent out there with a kid that's playing, I think it's like everything. You go to someone that's been where you want your kid to go, someone that's gone through it. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to be an ex-professional player, but if you haven't had a track record of success, if you haven't had a bunch of kids touting, or parents touting that organization or that coach, I think the red flags are easier to spot. Someone starts taking credit for a player's success, walk away from that person. Someone tells you how great your kid is and how they're going to make your kid a prospect, run from that person. Look for the organizations that have people in them that have done this for a long time and have been successful at it. And even if it's at the professional level, the collegiate level, or even the amateur level. Those people, it's like everything else. If we pick a restaurant, we look at the reviews, and if it's got a bunch of bad reviews, you probably aren't going to it. So it's buyer beware out there. It's just sad that there's enough people out there wanting to separate you from your money that they'll tell you whatever they think you want to hear. And, it's just, that's the way it is.
Well, and then too, I think, going off of telling you want to hear, I think it's become a race as far as who can start tryouts sooner, who can get the upper hand, and it just keeps it's earlier and earlier and earlier and earlier and earlier, and it just doesn't end. And I'm going, and we're finalizing the rest of our stuff kind of as it speaks for spring and summer. The stuff's basically buttoned up, but you're always looking to you're looking to add pieces and find some guys that can help you throughout the organization. But you're talking tryouts in November for a summer team that doesn't begin until June. It's gotten insane.
Trust me, we're guilty of it. We've made those adjustments, and just because we're trying to not lose players, like I said, get back to the anxiety out there as a parent. As they're looking around and other kids are trying out, and I want to make sure my son has that same opportunity. So I'm going to go try out for this team, and it doesn't take much to look around, man. There's all you need is a logo and a Facebook page, and you can have an organization or a team nowadays. And some of these guys are, YouTube jockeys. They sit there and pick up drills off of YouTube, which there's some great information on YouTube. I learned how to change my windshield wipers watching it, and I'm sure you can learn how to pitch watching it. So I'm not going to sit there and say you can't. But the bottom line is that there's a lot of people out there holding tryouts and buying uniforms and going to have a season that have no business doing this and charging money for it. There's parents out there, especially at the high school level, that are letting their kids play for people that have zero credibility in the game. They don't have the ability to coach or teach, but they do have the ability to market themselves. And mom and dad feel like, oh, well, if I put Johnny in this situation, he's going to get a scholarship. And it's for most people, they're going to walk away from it with a disappointing experience.
Man, that was pretty darn solid, man. As long as I can get out of the way and let you talk, guys. You had Mike Hamilton, 25 years in Major League Baseball, or professional baseball in general, with the Rockies, the Texas Rangers, Atlanta Braves, Major League Scouting Bureau, and now I messed it up earlier. What is the proper title of what you got rolling?
Well, I own Collin County Baseball Academy, which is the facility.
Correct.
In Prosper, Texas. And I run the Canes in North Texas, which is basically Waco North, Louisiana, Oklahoma, and Arkansas for the Canes national team, which is originated out of Virginia, but it's pretty much a national organization now. We took that over in September of this year.
Did you get are you like the Archduke or the Bishop?
The Grand Poobah is what I like to go by, but I think my real title is Director, Canes, North Texas.
Well, hell yeah, Mike Hamilton, Director of the Canes, North Texas. I gave the rest of the background here, guys. Dude, come on again. We'll have to. I'm telling you, going through. I'm trying to find quality guests. It gets going, and next thing you know, I'm pulling my hair out. I get guys that, hey, I'm out of town. I get to reschedule. I had Bill Mosiello from TCU who's ready to rock and roll. Now they're getting going with their seasons. They got stuff going. So I'm either having to maybe pre-record something because I'm not going to go and turn off guests. I like the live element because you can get interaction with people. People listening and watching. But I haven't hit that wall yet. Can't thank you enough, obviously, for coming on first and foremost, and then obviously the relationship we've developed and the trust that I can throw stuff out there and get a non-pointed answer of, oh, hey, yeah, do this. So you go run it into the ground. So we keep having success, but man, it's
yeah, man, it's been a blast. I mean, this is no different than what we do about once a week anyway, when we ask each other what's going on and try to figure out how we're going to deal with, different situations. So I really enjoy it. Make sure when you have Bill on, ask him about Todd Helton. I know he was one of Todd's secret hitting guys for a few years. So make sure you ask him that. It might surprise him that you know that.
Yeah, that will do. Well, I think he let the cat out of the bag a little bit when he named his son Helton. But man, I appreciate it. Come on again. We'll do it up. Mike Hamilton, Director of Canes, North Texas. Can't thank you enough, man. I really, really, really appreciate you coming on.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All righty, guys. Perry Lunsford making it happening. Got to get on to our sponsors. The only way we're able to do this show, the only way we're able to bring on guests like Mike is with the help of our sponsors. I covered Hiley Buick GMC, covered Dr. Nikki Green, Fort Worth Cosmetic and Family Dentistry. Perry Lunsford, the healthy insurance dude, 817-205-6257. Every single one of y'all watching, every single one of you sitting here scrolling, about to X out of my screen here. Don't do it just yet. Y'all need health insurance. You don't want to get caught without it. His nickname does not come from anywhere. I mentioned it last week. I'll mention it again. Carl Malone didn't become the mailman overnight. Neither did the healthy insurance dude become the healthy insurance dude overnight. Insurance isn't fun. It's not fun to deal with. It's not fun to get stuff kicked back. Oh, we don't cover this. We don't cover that. Being self-employed, I would not go anywhere else. I've tried it. Came up empty-handed. I got around. I was somehow put in contact with Perry a couple years ago. Wouldn't go anywhere else. You get an awesome rate locked in. Stuff doesn't fluctuate. Stuff doesn't change. Hit him up. See what he can do for you today. 817-205-6257. That's Perry Lunsford, the healthy insurance dude. Robbie Tucker, one of my favorite ones. My man Robbie Tucker here, Chemtech Pest Control. He's a bee, roach, and ant specialist. The messiah of pest control, as coined by many. While he may not walk on water, his solution has the power of napalm with the same and safe element of apple juice. If you got Teddy or Foo-Foo, your dog walking around the house, and Robbie was just there, certain companies got to be careful, right? They can poison the dog. You walk home, not only the bug's dead, you're looking at your dog not in so great a shape. He sends all bugs to a premature natural death. Guys, awesome dude. I love promoting these guys. I love getting out there, having a little fun with the fun with all the extra that I throw in there for him. But absolutely incredible. He's done our facility. He's done multiple facilities that I've had in the past. 817-489-5500. Guaranteed to have yourself some laughs too. Okay. You don't give up quality. You don't give up anything, but I'll tell you this, he's all about customer service. The guy's out there whenever you need him. If it rains, if he's got to do a follow-up, it is 100% top-notch service across the board. Give Robbie a call, 817. Where did it go here? 817-489-5500. And I'll move on here. Kristen Holle Realty, the top 20 in all Keller Williams in production. Top 20 in Keller Williams production. And this past year, started this year with a bang. I was actually having to watch my daughter a little earlier. Then she, being Superwoman, was able to go and take my daughter with me during the show. Got some closings, got a whole bunch of different stuff going on here. Do not go into battle here. Do not go into a battle into a gunfight with a knife. You're going to lose. Don't go into a real estate transaction without my wife. It's not going to end up well. Several closings this week. Buying, selling, investing, negotiating. If any of those come into play, have someone by your side. And don't forget, on the buying side, when you go in there, all you're going in with a wealth of information, a wealth of experience, a wealth of knowledge, and nothing out of your pocket. You go into it absolutely prepared, the absolute best thing that you can do. She's a relentless worker, answers the phone. If you have questions, absolutely holler. Whatever time of day, whatever time of night, call, text, 817-808-9464. Kristen Holle Realty, one of the extensions of Keller Williams Realty. A big thanks again to Hiley Buick GMC, Dr. Nikki Green with Fort Worth Cosmetic Dentistry, Perry Lunsford, the healthy insurance dude, Kristen Holle with Keller Williams Realty, and Robbie Tucker, sweet Robbie Tucker with Chemtech Pest Control. That's all the time I have today. Big thanks to my man Mike Hamilton coming on. It was an absolute great show. Good to hear just insight on many different topics on the scouting side, the player development side within baseball, professional and youth. We're going to be here again, the same time, same place next week, Wednesday, 1 p.m. Central Time. God bless our troops, police, firefighters, and first responders. God bless the greatest country there is, the United States of America. My name is Greg Holle. This last hour, you've been watching the Greg Holle Show. And until next time, go Texans, and good night from Fort Worth, Texas.
He said, is this really where you've been for the last few days? Hell yeah, it is. Is that all you gotta say?